case I will be discussing for my final presentation is New York Times Company versus United States. In this case, the Nixon administration took the New York Times Company to federal court to prevent the company from printing and releasing sensitive information called the Pentagon Papers. The Pentagon Papers discuss in detail the history of the involvement of the United States military in Vietnam during the war. These papers also showed government secrets and exposed the lies of the government about the size of the war. These papers brought to light all of these things to the mainstream media that were previously hidden from the public. The Nixon administration believed that the release of the information could be harmful to the nation's security and implemented prior restraint. Prior restraint prevented the New York Times Company from exposing this information by not allowing the information to be published. However, the New York Times Company took their case to the Supreme Court with the belief that their First Amendment rights had been violated and that there should be no prior restraint on the right to publish to the public. In this case, the Supreme Court sided with the New York Times on the basis that the Nixon administration had violated their First Amendment rights by not allowing them to publish the information. The purpose of the press is to inform the people of the nation, not to protect our government secrets. The publishing of this information creates no security threat for the nation. Nearly all of the justices concurred with this decision. Mr. Justice Black, Mr. Justice Stewart, Mr. Justice Brennan, Mr. Justice White, and Justice Douglas all concur on the fact that this case should have never came to the level in which it did. The press should have never been prevented from publishing. The founding fathers of this country wrote that the press should never be prevented from publishing information to the public. Therefore, the New York Times Company should not have been prevented, and the Nixon administration should not have used something as petty as security to try and prevent the rights given in the First Amendment, especially when no such security threat was evident. It seems to me that the aspect of judicial review highlighted by this case would be that of original intent. The justices who concurred in this case turned and leaned to the founders of our nation, their writings in the Constitution concerning the press, and what the writers intended that section of the Constitution to mean. They relied on the powers given to the press by the Constitution. I personally agree with the court's decision because I do not believe that the government should be able to violate the First Amendment rights of the people of this nation or the press. I would understand the government needing to keep this information hidden if it honestly causes security risk for our nation, but that was not the case. The government was only protecting themselves and their secrets, something which I believe should be shared with the people of this nation. Therefore, they have no right to try and stop the press from releasing the information. The impact of this case was big for our country. This case was the first time in history that all the lies and other such things being hidden from the people of this country were exposed. This case created an outrage between Americans, the media, and their government. I believe that it was very important that the people of this country know that the government is not some angel that always presides within the limits that we expect them to. I believe that socially this leak of government secrets has caused distrust and conspiracy ideas in the minds of Americans. And I believe that it still impacts the minds of Americans today. I do not know any one person who believes that the government is always telling us the truth.